Imagine this. You're over 60 years old. You've been working for the same company since you got out of college many years ago. You've worked your way up through all the ranks and you're near the top now. One day you have to go into the office despite the fact that COVID is going on and hardly anyone goes in anymore. But you have a meeting with your boss. You get to the meeting and the head of human resources is there waiting also. They say, "We need to talk." 30 minutes later, you find out your position's been eliminated. You no longer have a job. You're asked to pack up your stuff and you're escorted from the building. What do you do now? Let's talk about it. Hi, this is Bob Poole. Welcome to the Water Cooler Hangout. For over 40 years, I've been helping people like you grow and prosper. Please join me and guests like Seth Godin, Guy Kawasaki, Lauren Cordain, Beverly and Tim Walden, Phil Elmore, and more as we share real-life stories about sales, marketing, leadership, creativity, and current events. Need help in moving to the next level? Find out how others have done it by listening to the Water Cooler Hangout. When you lose a job that you've been working at for years, maybe decades, you're going to be grieving. You're going to have to go through the process of grief and resolving that. If you don't, there's going to be a problem. Years ago, I did some work in the funeral industry, and at that time, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross came out with what she called the 5 stages of grief. Those stages, she called them were denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Since then, a lot of other people have added different stages, and I'm not going to go through how to interpret her stages of grief and how you go through. You can Google that and find out anything you want to know about Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and the stages of grief. But if you've experienced the loss of someone or a job, and you're in that position where you're going through grief right now, then it's important to go through it and get to the other side, not get hung up in one of those stages. Some people go through the denial and the anger part, even the bargaining, but they get stuck on the depression. They never get to the end, which is acceptance, and they never get to move on. So all that sadness and regret and everything will just hang on you, and you end up getting more angry and more depressed. And right now, with COVID, people are isolated. You're not with friends and family quite as much, especially if you lived alone. And frankly, just losing your job, even if you have a large family and you're living with them, you're still isolated inside that family. You feel differently about yourself. Sometimes there's shame. The anger can set in where you're, starting to yell at the kids or wife or husband. It's not a good situation. And the fact of the matter is that right now during this pandemic, we already know that the suicide numbers are going up. People are ending their lives because they can't deal with it anymore. They're lonely, they're isolated, and they don't see a future. So you add a job loss to that, and we've got a perfect storm. So one of the things I wanted to say in this podcast was if you're in that position or you know someone that is, if you have any thoughts of suicide or self-harm, or if the grief you're experiencing is just overwhelming, or you know someone else who's in that position, please reach out to someone. You can call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. There's one at 1-800-273-TALK, T-A-L-K. That's 1-800-273-TALK, T-A-L-K. That's the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. They have their support's free. It's confidential. They don't charge for it. They're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So 800-273-TALK. The good news is once you get through that grief and you accept it, it's time to move on. And you can make a plan. And when you're at that point of acceptance, it's time to sit down and put on paper what it is you really want to do. If you're 50 or 60 years old, you've been doing the same thing your whole life, maybe you want to continue doing it, which is fine. you're an accountant, your job was eliminated, you might want to go be an accountant again somewhere else. There's nothing wrong with that. But maybe you're an accountant and you've always had an interest in, let's say, investing, stocks and bonds. It's kind of a hobby for you, so you played around with it, learned a lot about it, and you do pretty well at it. Now's the time to put together that plan to make the switch. It's also time to put together the tools you're going to need to make that switch. You might need an updated resume. Maybe you're going to need to take some courses or get some certifications for something. Whatever it is, you need to put the planning down and start the process. Maybe you've always liked working with dogs, and you're good at training dogs. But for a living, you've always been working with your hands, maybe as a carpenter, and you want to make a switch. Now's the time to sit down and put a plan together on how to become a dog trainer. Now is also a great time if you have a new idea and you want to get it out to the public. Yeah, really. Even though COVID is going on, now's the time to take it and get it online, like everyone else is doing. If you're paying attention to what's going on in the internet, you're probably getting all kinds of offers and emails and social media to sign up for something, to buy a course. So lots of people are putting courses together. Lots of people are putting courses together on how to get online. As a matter of fact, I made the decision over a year ago that I was going to take my business and get it more online. Now, I started down that path, and then along came COVID, and that made it really interesting because now I didn't have a lot of choices. So even though I've been doing this for years in sales and marketing and pretty technical background, I found that I really needed some help in trying to put all the pieces of the puzzle together to take a business online. So I happened to know I had met online years ago, a man by the name of Steve Dotto. You might know who he is. He has a website called dottotech.com. That's DOTTO tech.com. He's been Canada's favorite geek for many, many years. He was on TV up there for, I think, over 20 years. He helps people get online, start and run online businesses. He has a thing he calls Webinar Wednesday, where he's done hundreds of webinars, and they have just tremendous content in there. You can't miss if you check him out. Great information. He's got free courses on things like Evernote and just a lot of content that he gives away to people. So I started looking at some of his free things that he had, and it just so happened that he was also in the middle of launching something that he calls the Gray Wave. And it's for people that are Gen Xers and baby boomers, the same thing I've been talking about. So I ended up actually participating and being one of the initial members of the Gray Wave. This is a paid community. It's not a course, not that type of thing. It's actually a community of Gen Xers and baby boomers that learn and share and grow together their online businesses. So it's a great opportunity, and the content and the lessons and the videos and the follow-up lessons and the artwork and the graphics and everything about it is just first class, and you would learn so much. So yeah, I'm promoting it here. I don't get paid to promote it, by the way. I'm just promoting it and telling you it's a really great opportunity. The Gray Wave, spelled with an E, Grey wave. It's funny. There's also a perception out there that if you're over 60 or whatever, that you're over the hill when it comes to business, especially technical business like Facebook and Google, etc. They were all started by kids, right? And I'm sure the Silicon Valley crowd thinks that anyone over 35 is over the hill. But it turns out that research actually shows that not only do more older people start businesses, but also the businesses started by older people are actually more successful. When you think about it, that kind of makes sense, doesn't it? We have a lot more experience. We've been there. We've done it. We've, learned from our mistakes, hopefully. So, people like the founders of McDonald's, Coca-Cola, and Kentucky Fried Chicken were all over 50 when they established their businesses. There's plenty of entrepreneurs who found the big idea later in life and founded companies that have lasted well beyond their lifetime. Leo Goodwin is one. Probably not familiar with that name. I wasn't. He's the founder of Geico. He was working as an accountant in Texas back in the 30s. And he decided to start Geico. He started it in Washington, D.C. Today, I think they have something like 28,000 employees and something like 15 million policyholders. There's old Colonel Sanders, Harlan David Sanders. He has quite a history if you ever want to read up on it. There's good and bad in there. But at the age of 62, he franchised Kentucky Fried Chicken. Now there's thousands of outlets all over the world. When I was doing some research, I came across this person, and I had never heard of him. But you tell me, have you ever heard of Carol Gardner or her dog? The dog's name was Zelda Wisdom. So Carol was 52. She had just been divorced and had no money. She was a broke, depressed, sad person, all those things that we were just talking about. So her doctor said it might be a good idea for her to get a dog that would help her and make her feel better, which isn't a bad idea at all, by the way. So she got a dog, and then she won a local Christmas card contest with a picture of the dog and a funny quote that she made. The win inspired Gardner to start a greeting card company, which she named after her dog, Zelda Wisdom. In 2010, Zelda Wisdom was valued at roughly $50 million. So it's not really a question of how old you are. It's rather a question of how long does it take you to make a difference. Realistically, if you're 55 or 65 today, you could join a company or start your own business and deliver 10, 15, or even 20 years of fantastic, stellar work. Let me tell you a little bit about my own story. About a year ago, when I was making that decision to go online, right before then, I was actually fighting an overwhelming feeling that my time might be over business-wise. All of 2018 was a terrible year for me. I spent in hospitals and nursing homes, and while I was still able to work, it was a difficult time, and I thought about just retiring. I'd kind of semi-retired years before, but I didn't really like it, and it didn't work out for me. In fact, with all the medical problems, I started thinking, well, maybe it had something to do with the fact I wasn't working anymore. Probably not, but I didn't want to test it any longer. And the fact of the matter was I still had all the desire to help others, achieve their dreams, build businesses. That's what I've done most of my life. I've been a serial entrepreneur helping clients in sales, marketing, all over the world. I've got to travel all over the world, and it's been a great life. But it was frustrating. So I asked myself, what can I do? And that's when I reached out, found Steve Dotto, and started working on getting my business back online. So what are some of the things you can do once you start putting that plan together? Well, you obviously have to decide whether you want to get a new job working for a company, and that's fine, or if you want to, live that dream and go after something else. Once you make that decision, then you've got, your path is kind of laid out for you. If you're going to go out and look for a new job, well, you need to think about, you probably haven't interviewed in a long time. You probably need a new resume, and you need to get a resume that is up to date, today's kind of resume. You're going to have to look at the online services. There's a lot of them out there that have job services, Indeed and Career Builder, and where you can post jobs and where employers, post jobs. You're going to be interviewing online. That's kind of the way it is right now with COVID. When that changes, it'll be different. But for now, you're going to have to know how to get online and how to use things like Zoom or whatever the employer wants to use. The other thing you're going to have to do is look at your grooming. You're going to be on video. That's where you're going to be doing your interviewing right now, and maybe for the foreseeable future. A lot of places have found that, hey, you know what? We don't have to have a brick and mortar office. We can do a lot of the stuff online. So you need to have a modern haircut. You might want to touch up that gray. And if you're still wearing your Stan Lee aviator glasses from the 70s or 80s, do yourself a favor and get a modern pair of glasses. And by the way, you need to have some kind of an online presence so that employers can check you out. A lot of times, if you're looking for a new job, you're going to be working for someone younger than you. They might be a manager and they're a millennial. And that's where millennials spend their time. They're online. They communicate differently. They look at your social media presence. If you don't have one, that's kind of a warning. If you have one that you wouldn't want to show to a new employer, then you probably ought to spend some time cleaning it up. Google yourself. See what's online out there about you. Sometimes there's things out there you don't even know about, both good and bad. So, damage control might be in order for some of your interviewing. So we'll have more to say about getting a new job or changing careers or even building a business in coming episodes of the Water Cooler Hangout. We're going to be addressing things like ageism too, and what to do when you're over 50 and 60 and want to do something different. I have a lot of guests booked for the month of December with some really interesting topics. So I hope you'll join us. Thanks for being here today at the Water Cooler Hangout. Have a wonderful day.